Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of GnWC Weekly. It is Thursday, August 11th, and it is right smack in the middle of Impact Wrestling, I believe, which I watched the beginning of this week, and I was really excited about it, and maybe we can talk about that. I don't know. We'll see. We got a pretty full card for the night. With that, I'm the Duke. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is for you. I'm just kidding. I'm messing with Larry now. By the way, Larry, are you there?
No, but former X Games street loser Biker Sherlock is. Hello, how are you?
Did I mess you up?
No, not at all.
Oh, good.
I am a
All
street luge champion. I'm used to these twists and turns.
Yeah, nerves of steel even.
By the way, that is the greatest event to be eliminated from the X Games ever. Street luge.
It's so freaking dangerous.
I know. It was so much fun.
It's
you watch
unbelievably
these guys turn
dangerous.
And
Holy
pile
moly.
into a bale of hail, whatever it's called.
Yeah. I have a problem saying that too, so I never say it.
Bale of hay.
Yeah.
Hello. Speaking of Impact Wrestling, news and notes. Damian Sandow has signed with TNA.
Aaron
He will
Rex.
be known as Aaron Rex.
Yep. I saw the
Any
promo.
thoughts on
It
that?
was quite good.
I didn't see it because I thought it started at 9. I didn't know they started at 8 now.
Yep.
Days of Our Lives is supposed to be on at 8, though. Pop TV, what are you doing to me? Maybe Days of Our Lives isn't on because of the Olympics. But I don't know.
What was funny is I kept trying to find Pop TV. I'm like, what channel? When I finally, I was like, oh, here it is. No, that's the Kansas City Royals. Why would I be watching the Kansas City Royals?
Why would you
So
watch
then I finally found it, and
TBS?
at least I got there in time. I just missed what looked to be a pretty good match, unfortunately. So anyway, but
I'm about 2.5 weeks from seeing that episode of TNA. I slacked off a little bit, and the Olympics are not cutting me any slack for finding time to make up on lost wrestling.
high drama.
But yeah, I love the Olympics, but we'll get to that in a little bit. By the way, speaking of guys released by WWE and appearing on TNA TV, maybe. I don't know if I mentioned this last week, and I don't know if it happened after the show, but ZZ was released, former Tough Enough alligator wrestler dude. A couple of the guys were let go, but we never really saw them make it on TV, or they barely made it on TV and were never announced by name, so I don't remember who they were. And also, officially let go, the Ryback.
The big guy
Is now a free agent. Yeah, he'll be the big guy. He costs $4,500 to $5,000 if you want to book him for your indie fed. WrestlePro will have him on October 14th in Creeskill, New York, and October 15th in Brooklyn, New York. New Japan Pro Wrestling is also interested in the big guy as well. So Tokyo, get out the Kobe Steaks for Ryback. Joey Styles was also let go, and that's kind of sad. But
yeah,
it's not like he's done anything in front of our eyes for the last 10 years. But it's weird how he was let go. And can you shed any light on this? Because I know he did a question and answer thing on not on Twitter, because his last tweet was months ago, but he did a question and answer thing somewhere, and it was removed, maybe on the website, and it was removed. And then he was fired shortly after that. Do you have any additional info on that?
Yeah, so he did this thing, and they said it was going to be a shoot interview with Joey Styles, and it was on Facebook Live on WWE's Facebook, and it was basically Kathy Kelly just asking some questions from people, and he would shoot pretty straight on it, and I need to go back and actually watch it because I didn't watch it at the time.
It was removed, so I don't know.
Yeah, it was removed.
No, but it's the internet. It's somewhere.
Someone has it. I can get us a link to it here in a second, and maybe I'll put it in the comments or whatever comments, description, whatever of the video. But it's it wasn't scathing. It wasn't it wasn't like a Jim Cornette shoot or something like that. It was just, he was just really matter of fact, like he always is, like he's always
Right.
been on Twitter. This is the same guy who, he's like, I work for WWE.com. I don't know what's happening until it happens. So I just give my opinion on things because my opinion doesn't matter. I'm not part of the creative process. I'm the
Right.
guy who manages putting stuff on the website after it's public knowledge, or as it's becoming public
So
knowledge.
he didn't say anything in particular that raised a red flag. It was just okay.
Nothing super bad. I mean,
Fuel for the fire. If anybody had an axe to grind with him, or
right.
maybe
I
just
mean,
unrelated.
he said, I'm trying to remember what it was he said. There was one thing that was, maybe sort of borderline, but nothing that was, just nothing was that harsh. And, he talked about, I guess one hot topic was, he talked about Roman Reigns and, the fact that, Vince sees something in Reigns that maybe a lot of other people don't see, and they're trying to they're trying to find a way to convey that to people, or see if people will actually see that in Reigns. And he said more times than not, when Vince sees something in a guy, he's absolutely right. So I'm not going to bet against Vince McMahon.
He agreed with the boss.
So he literally put over Vince, right? And Vince's
so that
judgment.
Wasn't it.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess that could be misconstrued as you're making it sound like he's not the guy when he's the guy. I don't know, but that's the only blatantly obvious thing that jumps out that still wasn't really that negative.
Right. And it could be unrelated to the interview. They could have just pulled it down because it just wasn't entertaining or whatever.
Or they could have just pulled it down because they were releasing him and they didn't want to have something up recently from a guy that they just released, So
it was one of those stories I was looking for a follow-up on that I never got. Maybe I'll go on Meltzer's Twitter later on after the show and kind of search it and see. I was supposed to go there last week too to look up something. Oh, the Eva Marie shoot work thing, but we know what that is.
Yeah, we know
it is what it is. All right, so let's get on with some more news and notes here and rumors. Rumors abound.
Super quick.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Back on the Joey Styles thing, just really fast. My opinion, that was his last day. Not like he was leaving amicably. Whether it be. It says he was released or whatever. That doesn't mean it was negative.
Well, exactly.
So I'm of the opinion that was his last day, and so he was allowed to do a quote unquote shoot interview. They kept it up for a couple of weeks, and then they announced that he's released. You know what I'm saying? And then they're like, well, we're going to take it down, and hey, and maybe someone's like, well, that's going to create a big stink and drama, and people will be like, okay. It gets people talking about us, whatever.
People say some weird things on their last day. So,
right.
I mean, maybe the shoot interview wasn't his last day, but last week or whatever. But whatever it was. If he didn't say anything wrong,
I still think he was leaving.
Right. Okay.
I that's my opinion. So anyway, but go ahead.
Yeah, unless something else comes up, we'll just chalk it up as he just left the company. It's pretty much it. All right, rumors about here. Rumor trade. After SummerSlam, Orton going to Raw, Owens and Cesaro going to SmackDown. That could be huge for SmackDown because I don't think Raw needs Owens and Cesaro. Did I say? I said Owens and Cesaro, right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, it feels like I didn't say it in my mind. Star power to Raw and two bodies that can work phenomenal matches over on SmackDown. I think that's a good thing. I think that should have happened to begin with.
And that are young in the company too.
Right, and they'll probably work very well with Cena. They have in the past. AJ Styles, they have in the past, stuff like that. Big Show versus Shaq at WrestleMania seems all but confirmed on every media outlet but WWE. Both the Big Show and Shaq are saying it happened, but WWE is not acknowledging it. Too far away, I guess, to do anything about that. Shelton Benjamin failed the physical and will not be joining WWE.
And was actually very gracious to WWE, saying, I didn't know this injury was as bad as it was.
Yeah, it was kind of like a Cesaro thing where he had the injury. He just
kept working through it. Yep.
Yeah. Paige is more reports of Paige being unstable. Stephanie McMahon has been reporting that.
Hold up. Now, the latest thing I've seen with Paige is it's not instability. It's she has actual nerve damage.
Well, I'm not talking about the injury stuff. There was reports that she was being very vocally, erratic's not the word, but kind of like very vocally outspoken, like cat lady, like I guess is what I mean. Like, because Del Rio is on a different program and she's on another,
I
stuff
didn't know
like
about that. Okay.
Yeah. So that was it. But nerve, if she does have a physical injury as well, I mean, it's, could make anybody cranky. It would make me cranky, and I don't do anything that physical. Stephanie McMahon is not only dropping the hint, but outright saying that WWE is going to include LGBT characters in storylines going forward. Now, I am okay with that. I mean, there are people that fit that description working in the company. I just really hope they don't make it forced, like a lot of TV shows do, and to include it just to include it. And we know Darren Young is gay,
right?
And it hasn't been mentioned really, except the time he basically came out, and it wasn't on WWE storylines. They've done it in the past, but they've done it in such an over-the-top, corny, hokey, forced kind of way, like Rico and what Orlando Jordan, I think, was also. I just want to see it represent the community well, and I don't want to see it done just for the sake of being done. I think we both can agree on that.
Well, I think it is just being done for the sake of being done.
It's
done for the sake of, hey, we do that too. Look at us. We're just like all other entertainment.
Right. And NBC has an LGBT community network as well. So.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's very rarely done well in regular television. WWE is not known for their nuance, right?
Right.
They're known like that. That's what I mean. That's kind of like at the heart of wrestling is doing things in a ridiculous manner in some way, form, or fashion, whether it be your characters or the athleticism of your performers, whatever. Like larger than life is something you use when you talk about wrestling. So it's not necessarily expected that they have proper nuance for it. So I don't know. I think it's literally doing it to do it, just to be part of the buddy club of entertainment, of the entertainment world, when honestly the people's tolerance for that, and I don't mean for how people live their lives, I don't mean that, but people's tolerance for the ham-fisted approach to all of that stuff I feel like has really waned, because you see shows die on the vine.
Every show has one.
Yeah, but you just see shows die on the vine now because they just go hard in the paint on stuff like that, and people are like, okay, we get it. We get it. I know gay people. I don't need to like. It's not like why. It's kind of like. Did you ever see Pop Star, the Andy Samberg movie?
No.
Another in a long line of weird SNL based movies that
I like. Andy Samberg, though.
Maybe not, and it's actually. It's not bad. I watched it and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. But I'll tell you another story about that once we're done, because it's pretty funny. But anyway, it's kind of like that, where in that movie he does a song where he's talking about how gay people should be able to get married, and how it's wrong that for people to not be able to marry who they want, and that. When the reviews come in, this was like supposed to be his big hit album. When the reviews come in, most of the reviews are like, but like it's legal in like 48 states now. It's not even a thing. Like
it's not even a thing. It's like free Nelson Mandela. He's already free.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly like that. So anyway, I've harped on it too long, but you're right.
So here's the bottom line is it's not going to upset me, make me mad when they do it. But I'm on the edge of my seat hoping they don't embarrass the community the way they do it, or they don't alienate somebody about just making it too much over the top. That's pretty much just, when I heard they're doing it, that's the first thing I thought of. I cringed it a little bit, like, God, it's like they're just it's WWE, it's entertainment, it's wrestling, it's in generally cartoony.
Right.
Like, how are they going to represent that community well?
Right.
And not make, because once you announce it, once you do it, once you put it in storyline, you're basically saying it's straight person versus, whatever the politically correct title would be for that person. I don't want to say anything and just offend people. You're basically making it a war between sides, and I don't want to see that. And I hope they can find a way to just do it, or maybe just inform people that certain people are a certain way, and then just leave it at that.
Essentially, there's more ways it can go wrong than it can go right.
Right, absolutely. If they just say Darren Young,
there's an exponential amount of wrong that can be done in that regard.
But they said inclusion in storyline, so that makes me think that they're going deeper than just mentioning somebody's whatever, even if it's fictitious affiliation or sexuality, whatever the term is. All right, well, I have a piece of news and this is the last piece of news that goes into the cranky old people being old people segment, Duke. This is a staple now.
Oh, yeah?
Buff Bagwell is suing the WWE over lost unpaid royalties from the WWE network. Now, I looked at his contract, or what was posted of his contract, and, I've watched my fair share of Law & Order, and I have no idea. And I don't care. If he is or isn't.
Oh, you mean the case?
Yeah, I mean, suit. Listen, he was something about 5% royalties on blah, 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 whatever. But he signed a new contract with WWE before he was outright fired. It assumed the old WCW. So his argument is his old WCW contract that WWE assumed and his newer WWE contract that he signed prior to him being released after that awful main event with Booker T were one in the same and merged, and one didn't overly outright the other. But what I don't understand is, and this is where it gets technical, not just in his case, but in any other cases, and I'm sure there's going to be more cases in the future. A lot of the royalties are on merchandise sales and DVD sales. The network is subscription based. So WWE owns the video and the broadcast rights for everything that they distribute on their network. They're not releasing it to retailers. So I think that's where the argument fails when people try to say they're claiming lost commissions or whatever. But the only thing is, they're selling less DVDs because they have the network now. So I don't know if this ever goes the way of the judgment ever goes the way of the wrestler, it could start affecting the network. Increased costs, less content, more edited content as well, depending on whose contract says they had, you know what I mean? We could be watching episodes of Monday Nitro, and not only is the music dubbed over, but like matches could be missing as well. And I'd really hate to see that. So
yeah, I don't know how you have Nitro without Buff Bagwell, though. He was such a, I mean, whether he was
just on camera all the time.
Yeah, he was constantly on camera. That's the thing.
He always found his way to the front of any pack of NWO people. So.
Right.
All right. Well, Monday Night Raw. Let's talk week in wrestling. Let's talk the third week of the new era, Duke. What do I want to start here? Well, first let's start with it was something like a dumb angel somewhere. Can you shed some light on that?
I feel like that was maybe a typo. Dumb angle. So I'm gonna get a negative point for Raw out of the way, and then I'll do a positive point after Larry gets in something too. So my negative point is so you're the champion. Whatever champion you are, you're a champion, and you go to your GM and you say, you know what, this person keeps getting in my way. This person keeps getting in my matches when I want to sort of end my series with the former champion, and this other person keeps getting in my way. You know what? I want you to put them in the match too, so that I have to fight both of them.
Sound logic.
But they're on the same team.
Did you need that to continue?
No.
Go ahead.
But they're on the same team, so it's effectively a 1 versus 2. And oh, by the way, I just lost that match in the past 2 weeks. So talking about Sasha Banks going to Mick Foley, asking for Dana Brooke to be in the match, in a handicap match at SummerSlam. So Sasha versus Charlotte and Dana Brooke. It doesn't even, like, there's absolutely no reason for her to ask for that. And it kind of lends to the whole, man, babyfaces in this era of wrestling are just idiots. They're the dumbest people on the roster.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's I mean, it's one thing to be altruistic. It's one thing to say, I'll overcome whatever odds you stack against me. That's one thing. But when it's, hey, I want to stack the odds against myself, that's a completely different ball game. So not only did her requesting it make no sense, but then Mick's idea of, well, hey, how about this? How about you wrestle her tonight? And if she wins, then it will be a handicap match. If
it was reversed,
you win, then she's banned from ringside, which what she should have requested in the first place.
Right. Everything was reversed. They did, it should have been, you have a match with Dana Brooke tonight. If you win, she'll be banned from ringside. If you lose, it'll be a handicap match at SummerSlam. And then Sasha should have been, I don't care. I'll take them both on. It don't matter to me. But instead, it was, I requested to be a handicap match. Well, why? You're like 98 pounds.
Yeah. And you just lost that match before Battleground. You just lost that match.
So, all right. So that was, it's just they don't know what to do with the women.
They don't know what to do with women. And they don't know what to do.
Something.
And they just generally don't know what to do with the baby face idea. They don't know how to, I don't know.
There's no pure baby face anymore.
That's true.
That's kind of what it is. It's anybody who's a baby face. It seems like the writers can't put them in a baby face role. They always got to create some sort of animosity, make them aggressive.
But that was just something. Like, make them stupid. Like I just don't understand making. Yeah, I just don't understand between that and every baby face getting distracted by every little thing that happens in and around the ring.
Yeah.
When they could just focus on their opponent, get it over with, and then deal with the distraction.
Well, that's the magic of cartoon wrestling. We kind of have to,
I guess, but
we have to.
I just don't know why.
I have to let go of. I mean, that's kind of like one of them. It's like
but it's always like always.
Well, we've been watching wrestling for over 30 years. It's going to be,
Anyway,
it's always there.
But there's my negative, and I'll hit a positive. But I'll let you.
All right. Well, I'm going to touch upon your positive after you talk about it because we already predetermined what this is. But I'm going to say something that's going to lead into it. Let's talk about Seth Rollins for a second here. And by the way, a quick mention that I was very happy that Rusev was featured as much as he was.
Yeah.
Because I think he could be, and they did that whole I'm the champion of Raw stuff. That should have been done like initially.
Yeah, that should have been done instead of Roman, you lost the title for us, and we're gonna appoint Seth Rollins. It should have been Roman, Rusev, you lost the title for us. We have a champion. And
Rusev should have been yelling in Bulgarian every hour since the Universal title was announced about how he's the champion, taking people out and doing whatever. And being punished for it by being put into extra matches and still winning. That could have been could have been a big deal.
Destroying people like he does.
Yeah, absolutely. The pairing of Owens and Jericho that I called a couple weeks ago, I had Cesaro in the mix as well because they were all cranky about the draft. But Owens and Jericho, man, they worked so well together. So funny. Owens claiming I won after the match is just Kev being Kev. It's just he can't do anything wrong. And Jericho's in as good as characters he's been in since probably he returned from the WWE the first time he went away. Like, he's been so good.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But let's talk about Seth Rollins here.
Real quick.
Yeah.
And just real quick. I love that Kevin Owens, I love how they keep sort of adding these little flares to whatever their relationship is at any given time. And I love that Kevin Owens' character right now is the young adult who is having to put up with and defend his elderly dad or grandfather.
That's
Like
I never thought of it that way. That's pretty
that
funny,
is
though.
his like especially like last week with Jim and Marvin Luter.
One of my
Owen
favorite
just
wrestlers of all time.
yeah. Owen just walks up and says, "You that he's not a real person. You just made that up."
Yeah,
But I've got your back. Like
they've
it's
done that. Yeah,
totally like
it's so good.
adult child defending their senile grandparent or just out of touch father or something
Yeah.
like that. Like that's the characters they're playing right now, and it's hilarious and
They definitely
and it's great.
they definitely have it.
What do you mean? What?
It.
Oh,
Seth Rollins. All right. Tremendous wrestler, great athlete. We missed him when he was gone. But Duke, let me say this. Remember when he had the title and people were like, Raw sucks, wrestling sucks, worst ratings of all time kind of thing? Whenever he has, and I think you were in this boat also, he's very stale with his promos. When he does a promo in the ring, people stop reacting and listening. I don't know what it is.
it's
As
because
good
he
as a
just
wrest-
kind of says the same thing. He
Yeah,
like
as good as a
everything is
wrestler-
like the same.
As good as a wrestler as he is, as soon as they put that mic back in his hand, and his initial promos were pretty good, but I'm talking about this, and we'll segue over to what you want to talk about right after this. That promo about Finn Balor from Seth Rollins became a classic Seth Rollins no one cares promo. There's nothing to take away from it. You're telling a story that real WWE fans or those that really know the whole product, everything in the universe, already know. It's just comes across as very flat, very weak, and a reminder to the time when Seth was healthy and was the champion. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. This guy pretty much bored me when he wasn't wrestling,
Right.
and that stinks. But if he's going to be the champion or the contender, he's got to have face time, and hopefully he gets better, or hopefully he starts in this with his whole "my actions speak for me" kind of thing, which would be nice. But they didn't do that with Roman Reigns when it would have worked even better. So I doubt they'll do that with Rollins. But speaking of Rollins and Finn, I know you liked something from Raw.
Yeah, and remind me after we're done. I want to tell you something that's sort of in defense of Rollins, not in defense of what he did on Raw, because you're right. It's very reminiscent, but he did plant the seeds for the awesome video package they did with Balor, and people were saying, last week and the week before, oh man, they're pushing Balor way too fast, just like they did with Reigns, blah blah blah. People are already like selling tickets to the hate train and just getting ready for the conductor to
I have a
to
Metro
rev it
card,
up.
by the way, but we'll talk about that after.
Yeah, okay. But all that you can set aside because or all that I felt like they spoke to with that video package where Finn sort of did the History Channel lesson of what his name is. And I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it, and I liked the bleed through at the end where he sort of became the demon. It wasn't done necessarily the best it could have been done, but it was still pretty good for something that probably most people weren't expecting. So I liked it.
Well,
That's
here's where I pull my Metro card out. And again, I have to do the disclaimer. I don't hate Finn Balor. I like him as a wrestler, but I think the WWE dropped the ball here. They missed an opportunity to introduce Finn Balor and shock people, or at least shock and scare the wrestler in the ring. Where if Seth Rollins was doing a promo in the ring, and then boom, the demon comes out, full demon entrance. Now you can have that Kane-esque kind of Undertaker kind of feel of the wrestler in the ring, getting the chills and getting scared, while the fans, get the chills themselves because it's the first time it's ever going to happen. They announced what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They showed Finn Balor has the alter ego persona of the demon. They've shown it in video packages. They've shown pictures of it. They taught you the history lesson of it. So there's going to be no shock to it. Seth expects it. Not like anybody wouldn't know already, but no one's seen it on the main roster before. So I think there's people on the main roster who's never watched NXT. Obviously, I know a bunch of them.
Yep.
So for the first initial Finn Balor sighting as the Demon,
You just
it would
accidentally
have been
planted a seed for something for me later, by the way. Go ahead.
it would have been huge. So the second thing I don't really care about this watching Finn Balor over a year in NXT is I don't think his Demon persona really does anything different in the ring.
Yeah.
His moves are his moves. He wrestles the same. If he had exclusive moves as a Demon, if he did things differently, if he held onto holds longer or cheated a little bit more or whatever, it could be scary. It could be different. It could be unique. It could be a Great Muta Kenjai Muto kind of thing where, you know, you bring it out every once in a while, of course, but it's kind of like already scheduled when it's come out. It was every takeover. It was never a TV taping. You know what I mean?
And there was the match with Joe where he sort of hulked out, and the last one that he won with Joe, the last title match that he won with Joe, where he sort of kind of monstered out and had a fiery instant comeback against Joe when he should have been down and out. It should have been over. So there was that, but that wasn't sold as, okay, so maybe this Demon thing, maybe there's something to this Demon thing. Like they didn't even
They never made it exclusive to being the Demon. It was just Finn dug deep and kicked out. Or whatever
exactly.
Which is done pretty much in every main event type
they
match
didn't
ever.
attribute it to what's different, what's visually different, which they could. That was an easy win that they missed.
Yeah, so I mean, the whole like talking about Seth Rollins promo and how it didn't work for me, and it was a reminder of Seth Rollins in the past. If at that point in time lights went out, Finn comes out as a Demon, I think it's on a different level than Finn. As good as Finn's package was, and we kind of saw that story already when they did the Finn Balor retrospective before he won the title at you know, the Beast in the East in Japan. They did like a 2-part Finn Balor thing on NXT TV. And I think it was a special on the network as well, right? Well, at one
they did.
take. Yeah. It was a rehash of that a little bit, but you know, there's no knock to that. People need that. We need that reminder. People may not seen the special. They may have not seen NXT. They may not know who Finn Balor is. So not knocking that, but not having Finn come out as the Demon again, you know, with Seth Rollins in the ring, that you might have lost some fans. Like people might have jumped on the Finn Balor train because of that. People that didn't know him, it might have pushed him over the top to be like, yeah, this is the guy. Now they have to wait later, and they might be a little bit bored, a little bit annoyed by the time we got there. I don't know.
I suspect we actually see that next week, which is still at this point kind of dumb to not just have it appear on.
Yeah, at this point you have to save
SummerSlam.
Yeah, at this point you save it. But the whole Finn Balor being drafted thing kind of threw that whole shocking entrance out the window, where the first time you see him, he's the Demon, and it takes hours to put on that paint. They've highlighted that, so it's really not something you can do like all the time.
Maybe.
Unless you find a quicker way to do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and maybe they actually find a way to make a good point with this, and they sort of do the Kevin Owens thing where maybe they actually have a warm-up match between Finn and Seth next Monday, and Seth wins handily, and then the Demon comes out at SummerSlam and just demolishes Seth. And,
it could be. I think
maybe.
I think if we had that match, it should have been Monday, and then next Monday would have been the Finn, like, I've got to dig deeper.
Sure.
You know, I've got to go below, or whatever reference he wants to make.
That makes sense, yeah.
You know, stuff like that. They could still have it this week, but I don't think they would, because then how many fans would be complaining, oh, you're giving this away on free TV, canceling the network, stuff like that. All right, one more thing I want to touch upon on Raw, and it has to do with
free TV
SmackDown.
that pays them way more than anything else. Anyway.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Free TV that keeps them in business,
right?
So more than the specials ever did. Well, I can't really say that, but probably.
Yeah, but these days,
Yeah, Raw, SmackDown, Raw versus SmackDown, Duke. Daniel Bryan on Raw confronting McFoley. It's too early. There's no point to it. Um, you know, the writers or whoever is in charge of this whole "it's us versus them" thing are not realizing that the fans in attendance are not fans of Raw or SmackDown. They're fans of WWE, of wrestling, of sports entertainment. It's not the Islanders versus the Rangers, Giants versus Cowboys, Knicks, Nets, Yankees, Mets, Manchester United, Manchester City. They're fans of wrestling. And I would say that 98% of the people that buy tickets, Duke, don't avoid going to an event because it's Raw or SmackDown and they don't like that brand. I think if they're going to go already. So I really wish they'd stop making it a pseudo competition between the brands.
Just
because,
for TV.
Yeah, because it served no point. Daniel Bryan being there served no point.
Correct.
Except the people in the arena were kind of happy to see him. You know what I mean?
Unless it plays into, and they're actually sort of thinking more ahead, and it plays into the whole thing with Cesaro leaving and stuff like that. And,
okay, all right. If it goes to it, yeah, because he kind of did.
Because
that
was connected.
I wanted Cesaro.
That dot was connected.
All right, Duke. I hope you're recording this. That is a fair point, Duke.
I was recording that, believe it or not.
Okay, all right. Well, I admitted to it. So,
but you're not wrong though. So
no.
We got that on tape too. But you're not wrong. It's just the goofiness of it all is that
we're 3 weeks in.
Yeah, well, just what's stupid in general with the split was you knew you were doing the split before you announced Orton versus Lesnar. Put them on the same brand. Put them on the same freaking brand, and then you can split them up after the match if you want to bolster one roster versus the other or whatever. But put them on the same brand and don't do the trade-off thing, and then none of this had to happen. And you could still have Cesaro being pissed about being on Raw and not being featured the way he should and not being treated the way he should by the face GM, by the way.
Right.
The babyface GM is throwing Cesaro under the bus. Doesn't make any sense.
I feel like Mick Foley's a heel, but we're not all accepting it because he's Mick Foley. Because the amount of time
that's what he's been playing. Honestly, you're not wrong.
The amount of times he threw people out of the office backstage and did the condescending "Have a nice day." It's like, oh, I think he's a heel,
right?
But none of us want to accept that,
right?
Of course, he's Mick Foley
because
and we
he's
love him.
Santa Claus.
Yeah, because he has a Christmas tie on, so we're all jolly because of that. But
yeah.
All right, here's my last point on this,
Go.
And then we'll move over to SmackDown. Do you want to make this a competition, Duke? Let's finally bring back World Championship Wrestling, and it's WWE Raw versus Tuesday Night Nitro. Now, you have, they're still under the WWE moniker, but I think now more fans would adapt to us versus them if it's WWF versus WCW. And they've tried to do this in the past. They balked at it. They've done ECW stuff that didn't really pan out. But if you really wanted to make the competition, remember Shane bought WCW from under Vince McMahon? Well, why couldn't SmackDown could be WCW SmackDown? Who cares if you don't want to change the name? But I think that makes it more of a competition than WWE Raw versus WWE SmackDown. But
yeah, it's kind of, I think the ship sailed on that for a lot of reasons. I like it, but the ship sort of sailed on it.
I think it's the only thing you can do to make it a competition if you wanted to make a competition, but I'd really like them to stop making a competition and just start having the matches themselves and be on with it.
And part of I think another part of the issue was a lot of these dates were in people's contracts already. Like Brock was already contracted to be at these Raws and so on and so forth.
That's fair.
There's the legal aspects of it, and these guys, even though it's card subject to change, there are people in the past month, 2 months who bought their tickets because the card said it was going to have Cena and Styles, even though they were in a 2-minute segment during a commercial break on Raw. So So
Oh,
yeah,
did that really happen? I didn't even know that.
yeah, it actually happened.
Okay, cool. That's cool.
Before all the guys got on the plane to go to New Zealand, um,
Okay.
everyone that was supposed to be on the card for Raw was on the card for the live crowd.
Okay, so they also did did doing a
Yeah,
series of weird dark matches as well. That's probably just to fulfill
yeah,
the.
and they've done that since the brand
Yeah.
split. Anyone
All
that
right.
was advertised has
Okay.
been actually there. So
That's actually cool on WCW for still allowing themselves to do that. All right, let's move over to SmackDown. And I didn't really take away. I know you thought it was a decent to good show with SmackDown. I didn't really take much away, and I have to say this on the aside: I'm a big Olympics fan. And Tuesday night was the women's gymnastics team final, and there was multiple swimming events as well during the SmackDown hours. So a lot of the times I would tune out of SmackDown unless something was holding my attention, and not really a lot did. But let me speak on one thing that did. American Alpha. So they had a squash match, and they look very good. They look American Alpha like. It doesn't matter who they wrestle; they just look good, and they're exciting. They're explosive. It's everything the tag team division needs to be on either brand, is what American Alpha delivers. But before the match, you had all the other tag teams on SmackDown come out to be at ringside because they've been dropping the hints about there will be a tag team title. They did it the week before on Talking Smack. Daniel Bryan mentioned it, which was the focal point of the Mick versus Daniel Bryan confrontation, by the way. So they come out, and it's the Ascension. It's the Hype Bros. It's the Vaudevillains. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like I sighed. I really did. Just like I did now. It's like, well, I love American Alpha, but WWE has not really sold me on any of these other tag teams. And I feel like the division is so bad. It's so weak, Duke. How do you like the tag team division on SmackDown?
you're not wrong. It's it really looked like American Alpha, who are these new bloods that are, like you said, everything tag teams should be: exciting, explosive, just doing things in tandem, just having fun with wrestling and creating drama with lots of action. Everything tag team wrestling has always been, really. And who is their competition? It's like everyone. It's like
The competition were the two tag teams that weren't even out there, the Usos,
and maybe that's it.
and Breezango.
Maybe that was it. Well, and I think those guys were actually in New Zealand.
That could be. Okay.
Yeah, I think they actually got shipped off. So, yeah, it's weird. It really does. Like, most of the comments I saw were like, "Wow, SmackDown's tag division is actually awful."
do you know what SmackDown's team division needs? It needs two individuals teaming up.
Yeah.
And strange bedfellows too sometimes, like Kane and Kalisto.
Which would be fun.
It needs that for the staying power of having a tag team, even if it has to be Cena and AJ.
Or,
Ambrose and AJ, Ambrose and Cena. Like in the Attitude Eras, when any two top main eventers would fight a legitimate tag team, and it would be an equal playing field because it's two individuals versus a cohesive unit. Like, it kind of needs that at the top of the card right now, especially with these tag teams.
Yeah. Well, especially because these guys have been jobbed out, filler, buried, suspended, all the stuff that's happened with the other tag teams that were represented there is it makes you go, huh, who are these guys supposed to fight, and who's supposed to be like a legitimate?
Which one of these doesn't belong? You have Zack Ryder, who's been jobbed out for years just for getting over on his own. He has bright spots here and there, but otherwise doesn't get anything thrown his way. Teaming with a newcomer who have paired together in NXT, they all have. The Ascension, who you beat up every single time they were in the ring. and the Vaudevillains, who you would beat up every single time in the ring. So here's American Alpha. It's
and
like
who even get beat up backstage.
It's like a 1985 event with like David Sammartino, S.G. Jones, Barry Horowitz, and Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
okay. Which one's going to win? I don't know. Maybe Barry Horowitz finally wins, something like that.
Right.
But other than that, the storyline and character progression in SmackDown has been pretty good, right?
I would say so. That's kind of been my big takeaway, is that not only is it week to week good, but within each show, like a criticism I've heard from industry veterans and stuff is there's no story within the show itself, much less week to week. But SmackDown has been doing that. Every week builds on the week prior, and we don't have to have an hour worth of replays to establish that. But it just builds and builds. But the reason it works so well from week to week is because within the week or within the show itself each week, within the 2 hours, they're progressing the characters and the stories. Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler are the absolute best example of it, but not the only example, because it's happening with everyone. But Ziggler and Dean have their confrontation at the beginning of the show. They end up and they keep having promos and run-ins and everything throughout the show. And then they have a match together as a tag team against the common enemy at the end of the show. And then you follow it up with Dean hitting dirty deeds on Ziggler because of what had happened in the match. So it's just
that actually happened in the beginning of the show.
Oh, right. Yes, sorry. Yeah. You're right.
So it even extends your point a little bit further.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. I thought that, and then I'm like, no, that's not right. So
that's right. I do that all the time.
Yeah. So yeah, you had the whole Bray pulling Dean into a super kick at the beginning of the show, which
was
sets
a
up the tag team.
Fantastic spot,
which was great. Which
it was
awesome.
Great.
And then you have Dean following it up after they win their match by hitting dirty deeds on Dolph. And Larry, you talked about this earlier, and I'm going to spoil it, but Larry talked about, why you got two faces? Why does one always have to attack the other? Well, it actually made sense.
It made sense.
The story that was told over the course of 2 hours.
Now, last week
with the ladies, even though there haven't been a lot of matches and it's ticked me off, their characters are continually developing, and it's great. So,
last week when Dean Ambrose cut his interview on Dolph Ziggler to do the whole bring the fire out kind of thing, whatever it was, I kind of didn't like it then. But the way they did this where they were there together to start the show. And then Ziggler inadvertently hit Ambrose, and that created tension, and they had a team together. And then, he already planted the seed. I owe you one. And then he got his one at the end of the night. So it went full circle, and it was pretty good. And you're right. Because all the way down the line, even with Eva Marie and her Attitude Era-esque wardrobe malfunction or whatever, because that's still relevant, I guess, in today's day and age, that term.
Yeah, thanks.
What's that?
I said, yeah, thanks. I thought the same thing. I'm like, we're really using the Janet Jackson thing here? Okay.
I know, right? And then, PG show and a girl's tops falling off. I thought we were beyond that. But then again, after that happened, Michael Phelps crushed Lockie, by the way. I don't even think he was in the pool. But, okay, sorry, spoiler. But, yeah, what I was saying with Eva Marie's top falling off in the PG era, I thought we were beyond this. I thought women's wrestling was beyond that, honestly. Eva Marie would have probably been like a 7-time Divas champion back in the day because she fits that mold so well. She does Kelly better than Kelly. You know what I mean? She would probably win all the mud wrestling matches, all the lingerie pillow fights, all of them. Because that's the kind of person that they would have hired back then, and they hired her now. They have to find a way to fit her in, and by her not wrestling and pissing the crowd off, it works. But I think that kind of degrades the whole premise of the women's division by the wardrobe malfunction. but it's funny to Vince and his boys, I'm sure, and Dunn and all them. I'm sure they get a kick out of it, and they wanted to see it done. No, no pun intended, whatever. But PG era, I'm also seeing commercials for like Carl's Jr. hamburger supermodel 3-ways. So I think this was a point you made a couple weeks ago.
And all the USA shows.
Yeah, and all the USA shows. It was the point you made a couple weeks ago. It's like, oh, I guess, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Randy Orton needs to wrestle before SummerSlam. So why not Del Rio? Del Rio didn't lose the match; he got disqualified, so it still keeps Del Rio relevant. More Heath Slater shenanigans. Baron Corbin attacked Kalisto for losing the match backstage. No Apollo Crews this week. No Miz this week, except for a little bit of a cut-in, at least from what I saw for a Talking Smack segment or whatever that was. So they're doing some things. They're featuring people. They're holding back on people at the same time. So SmackDown seems to be a little bit better. So let's grade the two. Reminder: we're doing like the CompuBox. It's really not called CompuBox, but I call it CompuBox. Boxing judge scoring system, where if we feel one show is better than the other, we'll give it a 10 to 9. One show really dominated the other, we'll do a 10-8. And if both shows were kind of like, okay, we'll do 9-9. I guess we can make a case for 10 to 10 if both shows were just phenomenal. But that wasn't the case this week, because Raw featured a week main event, an on-the-spot main event of Cesaro versus Rusev. There were bad guest star segments. I mean, Puff Daddy, what did he bring to the table? And the misuse of Daniel Bryan, although Duke has made a point that I corrected myself on, they're setting something up long-term. Sasha Banks already had a scare. We're seeing the same Nia Jax recap we've seen ever since London TakeOver, I feel. Another Braun squash match. Bad Seth promo. Titus, Darren, Backlund stuff, whatever. I can go on and on and on. The club doing a DX Attitude Era like promo with eggs in a jar or whatever.
I like that though, but yes, I get what
I
you're
liked
saying.
it too, but it just fit the format of like which doesn't belong.
Right.
Like which direction are we going kind of thing. But
right.
but listen, the club's a callback to DX and NWO, so I get it. Neville, Sin Cara, Dudley's, whatever. But Rusev, I liked. Jericho and Owens, they like I said before, they got it. And we just had another end of show spear by Roman Reigns, which is probably the best thing he does. And by the way, with Roman Reigns interrupting the wedding stuff, I felt it was so good that they made the wedding stuff so boring, and I hope that was intentional, so that when Roman Reigns came out, fans would pop for him instead of boo for him. And I think it worked. And Roman Reigns was good on the mic. He was still his monotone self, but he was kind of funny.
Well, but he was chill.
Yeah,
like he wasn't forced. He came across as an actual wedding crasher. Like he came across as the cocky guy who everybody knew the bride was actually going to marry, but she ended up marrying this other guy instead.
Yeah.
He's just showing up being like, you know what? I'm better than you in every way, but congratulations.
I hope this leads to like a top 10 Raw weddings or top 10 WWE weddings list somewhere. If they have not made one already on the network, I'd be surprised. I would really like to relive some of these weddings that they used to do, and kind of, because I've probably forgotten a lot of them, like AJ versus Daniel Bryan, Kane, Alita, Edge. Things like that. Test and Stephanie McMahon was probably number one if Macho Man and Elizabeth is not number one. And what about Uncle Elmer? He deserves to be on the list. But
can we get to our scoring?
I'm getting there. Believe me.
Keep it 100, Larry. Come on.
I'm keeping it 100. Why is there no UK flag on Discord? Someone hit me up on Twitter.
What
for that
is your score for the shows?
9-9, because Raw didn't even beat Michael Phelps, Katie Ledecky in synchronized swimming. On my Nielsen's rating box, by the way.
I'm going 10-9 SmackDown again.
Okay.
I just felt, mainly because there was more actual wrestling on SmackDown. There was so little actual wrestling on Raw.
It's funny because I was flipping back and forth, like I told you before we went on the air, because again, I was watching a lot of the Olympics that were, especially the live events. I felt like every time I went to SmackDown, there wasn't wrestling. And then I look at the list and I see there's a lot of this person defeated this person. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that. But real quick,
you were just caught up in
real quick because I totally
in
missed
that
it.
Olympics.
Carmella versus Natalya. How was that?
It's bad. So.
Was it bad? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you had to give it a, if you had to compare it to Liv Morgan versus the other one, Jessie McKay or whatever, Billy Kay. Which one was better?
Billy Kay versus Liv Morgan was much better, even though it was a pretty sloppy match. It was still way better.
Liv let me down.
Yeah, she was pretty.
She let me down.
Like she seemed not there. So
do you know like what makes women's wrestling for me and what makes a women's wrestler like stand out in my mind is when they run
seem like a. Sorry, go ahead.
No. But she doesn't seem like the love child of Carmella and Alexa Bliss. No. When they run into the room.
Hang on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Super quick. Side note. Liv Morgan is the girl who used to work for Enzo that Carmella's character is based on.
Is that legit? Like
legit.
Real life?
She's
really?
the real life person who Carmella's character is based on. But it's just one of those weird things where they're letting her essentially be herself, but that character already exists in this universe. So it's like you may need to be someone else now, even though that doesn't make a dang bit of sense. But anyway.
So my dad goes to me, they call her Liv Morgan? I go, yeah. He goes, oh. Okay. So like the match happens and he's like, wait a second. What was her name? I'm like, Liv Morgan. I'm like, she's good. She just wasn't good today. Or at least I think she's good. He's like, oh. And they call her Carmella on the other show. I'm like, no, Dad. Like, but it's like he kind of I kept saying the name, and he's kind of like, that doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah, but like I mean, that's actually logical. That's not just his stuff talking.
Here's what makes a women's wrestler stand out in my mind: when they run the ropes or run at their opponent, they're running.
Yeah.
And they don't look like they're just kind of like high knee jogging or
right,
like running like Wade Boggs around the bases. They're legitimately running. Liv Morgan was not running.
She was prancing. Yeah.
And I don't know if that's Liv Morgan's not a runner thing, a fitness thing, a cardio thing, or whatever. But like you look at the good women's wrestlers and they're like going at it. And that's the difference between men's wrestling and women's wrestling is that a lot of the stuff is slower, sloppier, more careful, maybe. Things are missing by a wide margin. So they look unbelievable, like unrealistic. And that's why people frown a little bit on women's wrestling is just because the action is not there. It's also what makes Bayley versus Sasha Banks or wrestlers like them stand out in people's mind because they can bring it. And people like, I've never seen this before.
It looks legitimate.
Right. And what I've been saying about the NXT women's divisions for forever is you have Asuka, you have Bayley, and who can work at Asuka's level and has before. And then you have everybody else. And it's just like, well, the everybody else, even when they wrestle the everybody else, it's just kind of like, ugh. And it stinks. But when Ember Moon comes in, hopefully.
Yeah, between Ember Moon and who's the other person? And Nikki.
Yeah.
Nikki Glenn Cross.
The Galaxy champion.
Yep. But between those two coming in,
Daniel Bryan mentioned the Galaxy champion, by the way. She will be the first holder of it.
Yes, he did.
But what will her name be? Because it won't be Nikki Storm, but go ahead.
I think they called her Nikki Glenn Cross.
Yeah. Well, it won't be Nikki if she goes to the main roster. It won't be. They'll call her Glenn Cross will be her name. You can't have two Nickys. You can't have two people with the same name on the roster. Unless she's Nikki with a Y. But whatever. But can we talk about Bobby Roode and the Glorious Bombs?
They're pretty great.
They are pretty awesome. Now, is that a spoof on something else that happens in the world? Because I
don't think so. I think
I missed the whole like Harlem Shuffle kind of thing or whatever it was called.
Harlem Shake.
Shake.
I think it's just something they made up. I think they did it once. It's one of those things where you do it once and you're like, hey, wait a second, let's do it again. and you just keep finding funny ways to do it again. So yeah.
Because the first one I saw was the hotel room.
Oh
So
no, that
when
was
they did
that was actually the
last one, right? Or whatever.
that was
Might have been the last
that
one.
was the second or third one.
Oh, was
actually.
it? That's the first one I saw because that's the one you linked to.
Yeah, the first
So I
one
saw that,
was
and I'm like, wait.
the
Like
first
they woke
one
the
was
guy up with his own theme song, and then
Yeah.
I saw the other ones. I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's a
Yeah.
collaboration. It's a
Yeah, the first one they just kind of did it, and then the second one was him walking, like it was actually playing for him to walk into, like for him to walk down the ramp.
yeah.
And then the third one was an elevator, and the fourth one was
Oh, I missed the elevator.
yeah, and then the fourth one was him going to bed.
Fifth one
And
was the bathroom.
The fifth one was the bathroom.
Okay, the first one was the gym then, because that's the only one.
Yeah, there you go.
mentioned that I
There you
saw,
go. Yeah, it was
so
the
I
gym.
missed the elevator one, but that would be pretty
Yeah.
cool if they.
I mean,
stand there.
they literally timed it where he walked out of the, they timed it where where the doors opened and it was him. It was pretty great.
So I'm gonna make this comparison, but it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, but it's similar. Stone Cold Steve Austin being stunning Steve Austin in WCW, then coming to WWE being the Taskmaster, whatever he was,
Ringmaster.
Yeah, and then he became Stone Cold and had that promo at King of the Ring and stuff like that. Bobby Roode in TNA to Bobby Roode in NXT, he's operating on a whole different level. Like this charisma was never there in TNA. It was always like he was always, even in his promos, like he was good. He was a great wrestler. I liked him a lot. But his two promos he's done in NXT right now have far surpassed anything he's done in TNA, even promos while he was champion. And I feel like we have a situation here where we have a wrestler like AJ's AJ, Samoa Joe's Samoa Joe, but we have a situation here like Steve Austin was a good wrestler in WCW. Then he got into this character persona in WWE that made him one of the best of all time. I feel we have that type of situation happening here.
Yeah, and I think it's great that I don't think it's an accident that he's coming across as Triple H. Like he's coming across as the second coming of Triple H, and
Right.
in a different era where you can really play that up even more. And I mean, we've barely seen Triple H on TV at all, and now every time we see Triple H, it's actually Bobby Roode. And I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty.
I was going to ask
it's really
you,
good, actually.
I was going to ask you, was WrestleMania the last time we saw Triple H? And then I watched CWC, and there he was. That was the first time I think we've seen him since WrestleMania.
I think that's the first time we've seen him.
Over the end.
I think it's the first time we've seen him on wrestling TV. Yeah, like
Right,
he's
they
done
did the
Facebook
interview.
stuff and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But yeah.
All right. Anything else on SmackDown that really drew your attention? I'm sorry, on NXT.
NXT, Mojo was good, and Mojo knows the counter to Samoan headbutts, and it's hype.
Yeah. Well,
Just
the
get hype.
I'm so glad that Corey Graves brought up the you can't headbutt a Samoan, because they have not been doing that a lot lately.
Yeah.
Not that they haven't been mentioning it, number one, and number two, Samoans have been taking headbutts and getting hurt. So I'm glad they kind of brought that back. But two ways to counter a headbutt: one being Samoan, and two, have rocks in your head, and that kind of worked. So
No, it's hype. It's not rocks. It's hype.
my bad, tomato. I've heard it both ways.
Yeah, I thought Mojo came across pretty well. He was a highlight of the show in my opinion.
Are you more looking forward to Asuka versus Bayley because of the contract signing, or it's kind of like the same for you?
Sort of the same.
Yeah,
I liked
same here.
I liked last week's thing with Bayley more. I liked Bayley tossing the chair and getting a little angry. But I thought this was a little too contrived, and I felt like Bayley. I felt like she was saying what she was there to say, but she wanted Asuka to give her a little bit more, whether it's just facial expressions or body language, and Asuka just kind of stood there and waited for her to finish and then said, okay.
The okays were probably some of the greatest okays I've ever heard.
They were fantastic, but
I
feel like she should have maybe been saying those while Bailey was talking,
Right.
like interrupting
In
her
her
a little
face.
bit.
In her
Yeah,
face.
exactly.
Kind of thing. All right. One thing I do want to mention about this, about NXT, before we move on to CWC and then end the show. Authors of Pain. No one's doing squash matches like the Authors of Pain.
And their tandem moves are quite outstanding.
The smack people in the air powerbomb.
Yeah.
I've seen
you
it
mean
before.
the beer glass, the what would that be called? It's like it's like clanging beer glasses together or something like the beer can power bombs. There we go.
The beer can power bombs. It's the NXT clink of the titles.
Yeah,
the
there you go. There you
whatever.
go. I saw someone else say that. I'm like, oh, that's a good thing.
I mean, it is great, and it's a move you've only seen on the indies, because I don't think WWE has ever had. Maybe they have in the Attitude Era, but
you never.
maybe
No,
ECW
I've
stuff.
never seen that in a WWE ring. Not that I've seen every
I've
single
seen
match
it before.
in WWE.
But I want to say it was one of those like indie fed matches that like just people just do like the most ridiculous, stupid, unsafe things.
But it's so believable. Everything. That's what's
so good.
That's what's great with them, is that everything they're doing is completely believable. So.
Are they ever going to call that guy by his own name, by the way?
Oh,
his name that's written on the trunks.
Oh,
what's his name? Because they called him Rob Kimball, I think, unless he was Adrian Nails, and then the other guy was Rob Kimball.
No, Nails is the guy who had
the Christopher Daniels.
Yeah, I guess so.
just incredible. The guy that's who that is.
Yeah, Nails is the really, really skinny guy who just keeps looking like he's actually being murdered in the ring.
Now they wrestled somebody on the main roster, and I forget who it was, but that's when we were saying, well, why doesn't this guy go by his own name? It's written on his trunks.
You're talking about
I can't remember his
name.
Dude. Skylar? Okay.
Yeah. You're talking about that was one of the guys that night that they had on their ring gear that had their names, and they were calling them by other names.
But I thought he wrestled with that guy, with Nails, against the Authors of Pain. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that guy wrestled American Alpha.
No, the guy that was with Nails this time was the guy. It was Tucker Knight, and he's normally.
Oh, okay.
We've seen him with.
He had Tucker on his trunks.
Yeah, well, we've seen him with. We've seen Tucker Knight in the past with Hugo Knox when they were wearing the weird polka dot stuff, and he was wearing like the giant trunks with the weight belt.
Because I think Tucker Knight had
really
Tucker
weird.
written on his trunks, and I'm like, that's the dude. That dude got upset because they didn't mention him by his real name, and he's got it written on his trunks again. And I saw the match recap, the results, and I'm like, man, they didn't even call him by his real name again.
Yeah, but, Tucker Knight, we've seen him in very different gear before, wrestling with Hugo Knox. I think
we've seen him for like 2 years, just doing everything and anything under the sun with squash matches and this. No, Tucker Knight fought with Patrick Clark against Gargano and Ciampa.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Then
because I'm reading the result list right now.
Then I don't remember who Nails was with. All I remember was they got destroyed.
Yeah.
So
the dude had did he have like red hair, like a red patch in his hair?
I really don't remember.
I gotta look it up. Maybe I was thinking of Tucker Knight fighting Gargano and Ciampa, and I'm like, that dude has his name written on his tights, and they're not calling him the same name again. But all right. CWC featured something that I've been ranting about for a while, but on the better side of the argument.
Okay.
How to make a guy look strong without making him lose to a roll-up pin. Cedric Alexander. They made Cedric Alexander look so good in that loss that the fans were chanting, please sign Cedric. That they had to show the segment. They had to, after the telecast went off the air, they added a clip on the end of the fans giving him a standing ovation on the way out, chanting, thank you, please sign Cedric. Triple H came out and shook his hand and nodded to the fans.
And says, all right.
As they went to the back. That's how you make some guys look good, even in a loss. It doesn't have to be a roll-up. And that's where the main roster fails at times, because in all these feuds where they're putting their intercontinental champion, putting somebody over on their intercontinental champion, because that's all the purpose of that title serves, it's got to be like these weak finishes so the guy losing doesn't lose his star power.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's dumb in a lot of ways because and another thing, Tucker or wow, we said Tucker Knight so many times that now it's
let's
stuck in my
mention
head.
Tucker Knight as much as we mentioned Steve Blackman. It's going to be a new thing.
Thank you. I was
go ahead.
hoping you did that just now, actually. I was about to do it if you didn't. But I was about to say he's like the Steve Blackman of this conversation. But Cedric Alexander couldn't get his finish off, and that made the difference in him winning the match. He tried to get his finish off, and that's when Kota made his comeback and won the match. And it all came down to, Cedric had poured everything he could into it. He just didn't get his finish off. And as soon
he
as
lost to Ibushi's finisher.
Right. And he lost to
But
Ibushi's
still
finisher.
Got a standing ovation from the crowd.
But to further your point, not only does it make the guy losing look like a dope because he's just like, oh man, I got rolled up. Darn it, shucks.
Even though no pressure was on my shoulders,
right?
I could shake my legs as fast as possible.
It makes the guy who lost look piss poor, but also it makes the guy who won look incompetent. And that's further exaggerated by commentary. A lot of times saying, "Oh, he stole one. Oh, he snuck that one in. Oh man, he rolled it up."
Yeah, he was the underdog. He couldn't win.
Right. Well, and again, to your point, Kota Ibushi showed that he could figure out a way to get to a finish, and he showed that in just a few split seconds, he made the decision and he made the moves to actually pull off the meaningful win. And it makes him look more proficient. And like you said, it doesn't take anything away from Cedric. He missed one thing, his finish. And
Cedric Alexander looked better than I've ever seen. So, like Cedric Alexander coming into the tournament was like, oh, I remember that guy from ROH. He was all right. Not anymore. Like now, his stock is so high in my eyes that I want to see more and more of him.
Yeah,
I want to see him in NXT because I get a chance to see him every week now. Now, here's my question for you, Duke.
Yeah, okay.
Putting a bow on this. Well, not if you want to say something else.
But no. We'll finish it
up. Does this match work in the Omni Arena or whatever it's called now? Does this match work in American Airlines Arena in Miami? Does this match work in any other arena that's not 1,600 to 1,000 people of the most hardcore fans knowing what they're getting into? Or does this match really kind of just fall flat in a 19,000 seat arena?
So you're saying, does this work on Raw? That's essentially what you're
I'm
saying.
basically saying, does the crowd put so much into the match with the false finishes and the excitement of the match from bell to bell and then even after the bell than it does for like a family outing type of atmosphere that has 15,000 people in it? Not just Raw or SmackDown, but like house shows as well. Does the what is the word I'm trying to say? It's more of a I want to say erotic, but it's not erotic. Intimate. More of an intimate environment of the smaller crowd make these matches more special, where they would just be good matches in bigger arenas because of the fan participation and the acoustics. There's the Stone Cold Steve Austin way of asking that question. I'm going to let you finish in 1 second, but let's talk about that.
Very good. Very good.
That wasn't really a Stone Cold impression, but
no, yes, no, yes, yes, no.
I'm
answering all the questions you asked in the course of asking that question. No, but here's the deal, and I'm going to throw out a quick idea that I'm not going to flesh out too much on the back end of this, but in short, no, it doesn't have the same impact unless WWE will really commit to building that division properly. And you do it exactly how they're doing the CWC, where the first few matches people see, things are ending pretty quick, and things just start slowly escalating. You know, we got to the point with Cedric and Coda last night where they're actually starting to emphasize the time limit and saying, hey, these guys only have 5 minutes left, and it doesn't look like we're anywhere close to someone doing
time
anything.
Limit, draw a championship match. I'm calling it now.
Yeah, but
Go ahead.
But that's the way you build it. Is you start and it's significant enough to highlight that detail that you put time limits on matches. You say, hey, this match can only go 20 minutes. Or this match can, this is a 10-minute match or whatever.
Do you even need to say it, or you just let them work 12 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever? So they're quick, exciting spot fest matches that get the fans excited for them, and they don't just have to sit there for like a half an hour watching a quote unquote indie classic in a main roster environment.
Yeah, you don't drag it out. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I think that's how you do it. Is that you do it like they're doing CWC, where the first few matches people see. You see a few high spots. You don't see everything a guy can do, but you see a few high spots, and you chain things together pretty quickly, and it's not a 2-minute match now. You give it more than that. You give it 5 to 7 minutes, but you have a 5 to 7 minute match here, a 5 to 7 minute match immediately after, just like you saw with CWC. And then the next time you see it, it's a 10-minute match. And then then they ramp up to 12 minutes. And then you just keep building until you really have built up. These two guys are the best in the division right now, and they are going to tear each other apart.
And now nobody minds if they see them in a 20-minute segment match.
Like you have to build it over time, which is what, like, CWC is the blueprint for how you build this division on the main roster. They just have to commit to actually doing that.
And it's also the foundation of people's interest as well, because it's there and it's already happening. So when it debuts on Raw, there's already been a form of it people have been exposed to.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And not like they haven't had cruiserweights in the past, but at the same time, I feel it kind of fits in the women's division kind of moniker, where the longer you let those segments go, the more you lose people in the crowd. The more potential you have for that one dude in the crowd to yell CM Punk, and then everyone's chanting CM Punk. You know what I mean? So I hope they keep it quick. I hope they keep it compact. I hope they let the guys be spot monkeys while still holding things in the tank, so that every match is not like a shoulder block, you can't see me, fireman's carry.
Right. There's no blueprint. Like, the match can look different every time you see it.
Right. So that'd be nice. But
we'll
yeah,
see.
so I like the format in CWC too. I like how they're doing 3 matches next week instead of 2. I guess they let all the matches play out, and then they kind of package them together for production for TV, for TV show, which is good. And then they had the extra add-on Cedric Alexander segment. I really like that. I really like the appreciation people showed Cedric Alexander. That's what I liked about CWC going in, was the respect thing. And how everybody in the crowd wanted to see somebody, whether it was Jack Sabre Jr. or Tajiri or the Brian Kendrick, stuff like that. So what's wrong?
Nothing. I was waiting.
Okay. No, I'm just saying.
No, I was going to say one last little thing about Cedric Alexander. I keep debating with myself whether he knew that was coming or not, because he looked genuinely emotional, like, wow, I don't know that I'll ever get this type of opportunity again.
He did. He really did. That's why I liked it.
It looked very genuine of, I can't believe this crowd got behind me like they did. I know I put on a great match, but I can't believe I'm getting this kind of appreciation, because from what I read, he was criminally underutilized in ROH. Is that not right?
Yes, and I wasn't. And because of that, it's like I was like, oh, that's why I said, oh, I remember him from ROH. He was cool. He was paired with Veda Scott, who's also underutilized. She's very gritty, but she's very like awkward. So it's kind of like, I don't know how to describe her. She's very good, but at the same time, she's very, I always say corny and hokey. She's like over the top, like not believable at times.
I
And
remember
they did
you.
this,
I remember you actually showing me her at some point for some conversation we were having, and
yeah,
I watched a little bit of her, and I remember Cedric now, and
yeah.
thinking
He
that
had a
guy looks
feud.
like he has something, but I'm not seeing it in this match. Yeah, I
He
remember
had a
that now.
feud with Moose, and he actually beat Moose's undefeated streak because he used the ring wrench. And then that became his like thing. He was using the wrench. Vader would throw him the
Oh,
wrench.
okay.
He'd use the wrench, and then he'd use that. He'd win that way and stuff like that. Then he slipped on the ropes last year before SummerSlam weekend. They had an event at MCU Park, home of the Brooklyn Cyclones, and he slipped off the rope. And I don't know if it's because of like rain. I don't remember if it was raining that weekend or whatever, or if it was an accident, or if it was a planned spot or something. Then they started doing this whole "I'm suing Ring of Honor" thing because Veda Scott's technically the lawyer in
Right.
the
Yeah, I
the
remember that.
storyline.
Yep. Yep.
So they would start suing Ring of. So everything like he did after that was, we hate ROH. We're suing ROH. I'm going to pay somebody for. We won a big settlement. I'm going to pay somebody for taking my spot in this match. I'm going to pay this person for an opportunity at a title match, kind of thing. And he was never like
Yeah, I saw
in
some of that stuff. I actually watched some of that stuff. Cool.
in a promotion where it's wrestling based. He did not get a lot of opportunities to wrestle,
Right.
but Ring of Honor does a better job on like the non-TV shows, like the house shows and made for DVD shows, where it's just guys wrestling other guys, no story. So he might have been featured in some of those matches we didn't see. So, but real quick, because we never even mentioned the match itself, more or less. At the time, Cedric Alexander hit that move, the Brainbuster, got the close 3 count, got up, and then kicked Ibushi in the head. Was part of you like, oh my God, I think Cedric Alexander is going to win? Or were you just like, Ibushi's
no. That is quite. I'm going to say for me, that is the most believable, like hook, line, and sinker false finish I've ever experienced in wrestling.
It was so good. It was really good.
Because he took
it,
this desperate shot, and I've never seen someone kick out of a good count. Like, you know, you have the counts that aren't really 3 counts, but that was a metronome timed count. And Coda, I mean, he's just so freaking fast in general.
That was 2 and 15/16.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And the crowd bid on it, which made it even better. But I've never been so. I was like, I can't believe he's going over Kota Ibushi. He completely deserves to at this point, but I can't believe they're actually doing that. And then that happened, and then the kick out, and I'm like, I can't believe these guys are as good as they are. I'm just like, both of them.
Because of the like minor name recognition in these guys, over other guys, this might be like, it might have a consideration for Nakamura versus Sami Zayn as like match of the year. It was that good.
It was way too good for where it existed in the scope of things. Like, this seemed more like a semifinals match than it did a second.
It probably would have held up
match.
as a finals match.
Too, it would. It absolutely would have held up as the final. You just add like 3 more minutes to it where they're right up against the time limit, and which they could have done easily, just with a little extra selling here and there.
So basically, $9.99 out of $9.99 would watch again on the WWE Network is basically what
I watched it again before we recorded tonight.
I watched it today too, but I didn't watch it yesterday.
Yeah. I've seen the match twice now, but I will continue to watch it because I just watched it in silence today, just like paying attention to all the little details, and you know, figuring out how Coda doesn't kill himself with the insane selling he does.
A lot too, which was part of the whole making Cedric look good. Coda missed a lot of spots with Cedric moving out of the way.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It was very back and forth, and Cedric had a lot of offense. It was great.
Yeah.
It was great.
Again, I don't know if it's talent. I don't know if it's crowd. support. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I can get so invested in NXT and CWC and indie matches and main roster matches, even back in WCW days, rarely get me that excited. So I don't know, but yeah, Steve Blackman. So, can we talk about Street Luge for a while?
Okay, we're not talking about Street Luge. At least I didn't say something else. Anyway, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is for you. I'm the Duke.
It's like one person lays on top of the other as we go down.
That is not. No.
Whatever. You do your thing. I'm going to go look it up. I'm taking the headset off. Get off my computer.